If everybody could grab their seat, we're going to get started. Good morning. We are thrilled to have such a great crowd with us this morning. About almost a full month, I think, since we canceled the first go-around because of what was the start of several winter storms that I'm sure I don't need to tell you all about, but it looks like we've turned the corner, knock on wood. But a great way to kick off the turn in the weather and the spring season is one of our favorite events, our State of the State with Governor Sununu. We're thrilled to have him here with us this morning, and I look forward to turning the mic over to him in just a few minutes, hear his remarks, and then we're going to have a chance for some Q&A and discussion. So look forward to a great discussion this morning. I want to start with a few introductions and welcoming remarks. We have a number of board members and special guests with us this morning. So to start, we're thrilled to have this morning with us the founder of DECA, Dean Kamen. Welcome, Dean. Thanks for being here. Also joining us this morning, we're going to have a chance to hear from her in just a few minutes, Emily Bassett, who is the commander of the soon-to-be commissioned USS Manchester. We have a great turnout from our board of directors this morning. I'd like to introduce them all to you and welcome them as a group. Joining us from the Chamber Board this morning is Frank Wells from Hoyle Tanner, Bill Brewster from Harvard Pilgrim, Heidi Copeland from Business New Hampshire Magazine, Dylan Cruz from TF Moran, Mike DeSalle from UNH Manchester, Matt Kafori from Central Paper, Patty Lynott from SNHU, Tom Malafront from Manchester Boston Regional Airport, Tony Matos from Altos, Russ Ouellette from Sojourn Partners, Joe Raska from Oracle Dine, Dick Samuels from McLean Middleton, Patrick Tufts from the Granite United Way, Donna Gamache from Eversource, Nathan Saller from Bellwether Community Credit Union, and Susan Heward from Manchester Community College. Thanks for our board for being here this morning. I want to give a big thanks to our sponsors for their continued support, particularly at critical events like this. You know, without the support of our key sponsors and investors, all the work the Chamber does and great programs like this wouldn't be possible. So our premier sponsor today is Bellwether Community Credit Union. Our corporate sponsor is AutoFair. Our advocate sponsors are Eversource and New Hampshire Healthy Families. So thanks to our sponsors this morning. I also wanted to recognize Chamber member Celebrations Catering for doing breakfast this morning. Did a great job. And also want to recognize and thank the team here at St. Anselm College and New Hampshire Institute of Politics, Dr. DeSalvo, Ann Kamen, and Neil Levesque from the Institute of Politics for hosting us. We love being at this facility every year for events like this. So thank you, Neil. Thanks to the whole St. A's team. I'd like to ask Mike Leckweir, who's the president and CEO of Bellwether Community Credit Union, to come up and say a few words on behalf of our premier sponsor this morning, Bellwether Community Credit Union. Mike.
Let the record show, everybody applauded but my staff over here. They get a little nervous when I get to the microphone. On behalf of Bellwether's 37,000 members, board of directors, and my colleagues, I want to welcome everybody to this event. I also want to echo what Mike said, welcome everybody to this wonderful institution. Neil does a wonderful job. Dr. DeSalvo, St. Anselm's a great community partner. It's awfully nice to be in a room with so much history. I want to thank the Chamber and a well-attended board attendance, noted, certainly, for putting together events like this. I will tell you, in a world where there's words like fake news and alleged media bias, anytime you can have a direct connection with our elected officials is a huge plus. We can hear a story directly from the governor. If you want a follow-up question, I understand that'll be available as well. So consider this to be a very productive breakfast, and I'll close with a thank you for the governor for joining us today. Thanks, Mike.
Before we get into the program, I did want to again recognize and introduce Commander Bassett from the USS Manchester. As many of you may know, that the U.S. Navy is going to be commissioning a new ship, a littoral warship. I'm still working on my Navy terminology, Commander Bassett. later this year in honor of the city of Manchester. It's a huge honor, a very big deal. We're very excited. There's a number of really exciting programs and things that will be happening in conjunction with that later this year. There's some activity happening today and tomorrow. So I'd like to recognize and welcome Commander Bassett up to say a few words on behalf of the crew of the soon-to-be commissioned USS Manchester. Commander Bassett.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, on behalf of the officers and the crew of the future USS Manchester, thank you. It is my honor, my privilege to be here today and to be in such a historic place with such a fantastic crowd. We fight and we train for you. Our motto on future USS Manchester is Labra Vincent, and we got that from the City of Manchester's seal because work conquers. So we use it in our training, we use it in our war fighting, we use it in everything we do. We talk about how work conquers. So it's the spirit of the citizens of Manchester, and on our coins we use the whole state of New Hampshire. So it's really the spirit of the citizens that we use to focus our fighting and focus our training. And proud to announce pleased to announce the date will be officially announced tomorrow, I think. But for your calendars, May 26th, we will be having a commissioning ceremony here at the port of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So please, you're all invited, personally invited from the commanding officer. Personal invitation, and you can get that by going to ussmanchester.org. Thank you.
Thank you again, Commander Bassett. We're very excited for all that will be happening as part of this very cool honor. So be sure to keep your eyes on the news for more information, and check out the commissioning webpage, and there's going to be a lot of great events involved with this. So let's dive in. Just a quick word about the format. In just a minute, I'm going to introduce the governor and welcome him up to the podium. And he's going to have about 10 or 15 minutes of remarks, I think, on things that are happening and kind of give his general state of the state based on what's happening up in Concord these days. And then we're going to use the remainder of the program for Q&A. And as we've done at previous forums like this, on your tables there are note cards and pens. So we're going to try and get to as many of your questions as possible. If you have a question, jot it down, hold it up. A member of the staff will grab it from you and bring it up to me, and I'm going to try and rifle through as many of them as I can. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Governor Chris Sununu, who's serving in his first term. He's currently also the youngest governor in the country. Prior to being elected as governor, he served 3 terms on the New Hampshire Executive Council, representing 32 cities in Rockingham and Hillsborough counties. In 2002, Governor Sununu led a group of investors in the purchase of the Waterville Valley Resort as part of his business career, where he worked as Chief Executive Officer. Prior to the Waterville purchase, Governor Sununu was an owner and director of Sununu Enterprises, a family business and strategic consulting group. He focused much of his time on local, national, and international real estate development, venture technologies, and business acquisitions. Governor Sununu grew up in Salem, New Hampshire. Graduated from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Environmental Engineering. And Governor Sununu lives in Newfields with his wife, Valerie, and their 3 children. Friends, please join me in welcoming our Governor, Chris Sununu. You're here. Then we're there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Packed house. This is great. I'd like to think that you all came to see me, but you've all heard me before, so I know we came to see the commander. It is great to see so many friendly faces. I do want to just note for the record, we tried to get the commissioning done in the Merrimack River. I said we should just bring that thing right up here. I tried, but Portsmouth is second best. Probably wouldn't have gotten it out of Merrimack if we had brought it in. Well, that's great. Well, look, I think a great opportunity. I really want to jump into questions because I know a lot of people often have questions, and I think that's the best way to really communicate, understand what's going on out there. I've spoken to a lot of you before, but let me just take a few minutes and just kind of do a little brief state of the state, like where we are, what we've really tried to focus on, and where I kind of hope that the state can go next, because there's still a lot of work to do. We've been very successful, but there is a lot of work to do, to be sure. So when we first came in, and we've only been here, the administration has really only been here for about 15 months, but I mean, 2017 was an amazingly successful year for the state, both legislatively, in terms of policy, in terms of controlling a good budget. taking advantage of opportunities, managing, building new teams, really emphasizing some of the areas that the state had been a little bit ignoring. Frank, I'm going to be polite about it, ignoring a few little issues. We're able to really prioritize things. And you do it not by raising taxes. I mean, we have a balanced budget and we cut business taxes. And in fact, for those of you in the business world, and my sense is most of this room, we're going to cut business taxes 3 of the next 4 years, right? That is hugely different. That's a 180-degree difference in terms of where we were just 3 or 4 years ago. And we're able to do it and still focus on the priorities of the state. It is not easy. It really isn't. You have to make some tough decisions. But when we came in, we realized some of the problems were a little more into the crisis phase than we had originally considered. I put a lot of emphasis behind things like kindergarten. People said, Governor, you're nuts. Why would you? No Democrat governor has even proposed funding full-day kindergarten. A Republican, you're never going to get it done. Just run away from it. Don't touch it. I said, we believe in it. I believe in it very strongly. I believe that when you invest dollars today with kids, you save 10 times down the road. You provide them better opportunities, you open up doors. And you hear me say that a lot, opportunity. I sometimes words get overused, especially by politicians. Like they can't come up with something more creative, right? But opportunity is one I will hammer down on day in and day out. Government is not here to guarantee much. That's not the role of government, but opportunity. We should be guaranteeing opportunity regardless of income, regardless of zip code, regardless of whether you're black, white, male, female, whatever the situation is. Everyone within the Granite State has to have the same opportunities because here in this state, when you're given opportunity, we see the amazing things that can really happen with it. So we focused on kindergarten. We put everything we had behind it, and we got it done, and it was great. And then we went and we said, look, we have an issue with DCYF, abused kids. Right? We have thousands of cases out there that haven't even been addressed yet. There are kids out there that have been abused where someone has picked up the phone and said, I think there's something going on here, and the state has yet to get to it. That's not right. So we're going to put some money behind that. We're going to increase, not just building up government, but increase the programming, early prevention services, voluntary services that, frankly, this state hasn't had in years. We're bringing those back. Right? It's the most comprehensive child welfare reform. We're in 3 bills in the Senate right now. I'm very proud of that. And it's not that we just feel like we're throwing money at the problem. Any governor can throw money at a problem. Any governor can get a headline on a policy. But is it really going to get better results for the individual? That's the thing we talk about a lot. How do you get big government, we're not that big of a government, we're actually very small, but in the terms of state government, to actually pass policies and focus on funding that gets better results for the individual? Not for the institutions, not for the old way of doing it. Because when you get better results for the individual, that's when you can then say, okay, we've achieved something, right? Saying we threw $57 million more this year at the DD community, developmentally disabled community, than ever before, right? That wasn't to say we threw more money at a problem. The problem was we have a wait list. And we said, okay, we're going to put this money here. We can cut the wait list down there. You have people waiting for services in the DD community. That's just not right. So we can affect a change there. And it's about hearing the stories. I talk about that a lot too. Whether it's individuals that are, they can't get certain services, or it's a business that is getting, oppressed by too much regulation at the state level. We're the live free or die state, but for years we haven't acted like it. Right? We're one of the most over-regulated states in the country, or we have been. And so I took an aggressive approach with regulatory reform, 3 phases. Last year, 1,600 rules and regulations. We wrote them right off the books. Right off the books. And that was actually, I thought we'd get like 300 or 400. But I challenged the commissioners. I said, challenge yourselves, challenge your teams. Find those rules and regs that just don't make any sense anymore. And we wrote those right off. Now we're going through the bills coming through the House and Senate. And there's a lot of debate on them. There really is, in terms of licensure, in terms of streamlining the permitting process. I mean, you have folks out here that are trying to build a building. They get hung up in permitting limbo for 3 years. That's crazy. How are we going to incentivize outside money, outside investment of dollars to come in and invest those dollars in our economy, in our infrastructure, if they think they're just going to get hung up in a permitting limbo for years and years? You can't have that, right? You have to give people certainty. There is from the business world, there is a value to certainty. Even if it's a negative, nobody likes to hear no. But boy, in the business world, you all know, you'd rather hear a no within the first 3 months than a maybe for the next 3 years, right? But unfortunately, for years, we've just had leadership that didn't want to really make decisions. We'll kind of just drag them along a little bit. We'll be okay, right? We'll be okay. We're always okay. This is New Hampshire. We're always better than okay, frankly. But we're not maximizing our potential. We're not really achieving that gold standard. When we managed the heck out of the government in the first 6 months, which is the last 6 months of the fiscal year, for fiscal year ending June 17, that's really Governor Hassan's budget that we kind of inherit, but we just managed it tight, and we had a lot of money left over. And for the first time ever, we didn't create any more big government. We didn't do any of that. We sent it back to the taxpayers. We spent $35 million on roads and bridges projects in every city and town in the state. Every city and town got a check from the state government because we sent it back to offset property taxes. And when we found out we had even more money than we thought, when we kind of reconciled the books, we had $20 million. This was last year, well before Parkland. I said, schools. We're making our schools safer. And every dollar of that $20 million that we had left over went right back to surveillance systems, security cameras, lockdown systems, emergency plans for schools. 350 schools across the state got those grants. They're already making those investments. We're ahead of the game. I mean, a lot more to do when it comes to safe schools and infrastructure. Obviously a key issue across the country right now. But we're way ahead of the game. I think something like 98%, 97% of public schools now have their emergency plans done at the state level. We're reviewing them. We go through them. We find out where there's holes, where we need to make more investment. So when you have extra money, when you manage well, as you guys know, that's one-time revenue. So you spend it on a one-time expenditure, and you put it on things that really matter. One of the other things we really try to do, and then we'll jump into the questions. It's a tough political climate out there, right? Mostly outside of the state of New Hampshire. So one thing I truly believe is how you do it is just as important as the results that you get, right? We can twist arms all day. We can bang heads all day within the State House, and maybe we'll get some of what we want. But I don't believe in that. I really don't believe that's how you create long-term stability in the system. So we do it differently. We do it with positivity. We do it in a bipartisan way. We bring everybody together. We do not let the dysfunction of Washington define the success in the state. I cannot say that enough. We've really separated ourselves from that. We have. I'm down in Washington a lot because I'm constantly advocating for this state. That's my job. I'm the governor, right? We need somebody in there pounding away. Virtually every other state has lobbyists in Washington that kind of lobby for them. We don't do that. I just go and do it myself, right? I knock on the door myself. And if knocking on the door of the president or the vice president or the secretary of transportation or the secretary of energy, whatever it is to get the job done, to make sure we're in first position, darn it, that's what I'm going to do. And we've had some success there. We're getting flexibility out of Washington finally. I mean, they really believe in trying to push a lot of the rules and regulations back to the states and letting us make our own rules because what we need is very different than what other states need. And that empowers us. It empowers us to build good teams, bring in some good commissioners, bring in some good department heads, and give them the flexibility with the mindset of customer service first. That's the other thing the state has been lacking. Customer service first. When you get drawn out on that 3-year permit, that is not customer service centric, right? You got to go in, and the default of government should be yes. You've come to ask the government something. My job is to get you there, right? We might have to go through a couple steps, but our mentality should be, how do I get you what you need? Not how do I regulate you? That's been the mentality because it's kind of gone unchecked for so long. So these are the real changes. The third phase of the regulatory reform we're going to be pushing next year is much more driven on the customer service. I mean, our websites stink. They're really bad right now. We're slowly changing them. But what I want, and what some states have really invested in, it costs a little money, but a real one-stop shop. A one-stop shop. When you have a problem, should you be worrying about what department, website you should have to go to? No, you don't have to worry about that. We work in silos in government, right? We're trying to really integrate them now. We tend to work in silos. That's our problem. That shouldn't be your problem. So we're trying to create websites and interfaces that are really one-stop shops to get you exactly what you need. And at the same time, I go back to, again, doing it in a positive way and creating opportunity, right? Opportunity for individuals, opportunity for businesses. We talk about workforce a lot, right? I'm a big believer that creating a workforce starts at about 12, 13 years old. For example, you're a kid in a middle school, you have to take French or Spanish. Why can't you take computer coding too? That's a language. And then some would argue that it's a lot more sellable than learning Italian. No offense to the Italians in the room. You know what I mean? So you start them on that career pathway. You open their eyes up to the manufacturing possibilities at 13, 14, 15 years old. People think school choice is public versus private school. That is 1985 thinking. That is not school choice. School choice is the kid going to public school every day. What are we giving him as a choice to get him excited to go to school, to get him excited about what's next in his future, whether it's in high school, utilizing the career schools. I mean, the idea that, we call them the old Voc schools, right? We got to really invest. They're not. They're career schools. electricians, plumbers, veterinarians, computer coders, childcare workers. These are all programs being provided in our career schools. Those aren't jobs. They are careers. I don't know about you, but my plumber makes twice as much as I do. He's on vacation 6 weeks out of the year. That guy will never want for a job in his life. It's great. It's a wonderful opportunity. Somewhere along the line, we got this stigma as parents that we don't want our kids to become electricians, plumbers, and carpenters. What, are you nuts? I would love it if my son learned how to fix my car. It'd be great. I'm serious. It'd be great, and it's high-tech stuff. I mean, manufacturing is not pulling a drill press anymore. I see Dean making his clocks by hand. That's a little different. But really, man, it is computer coding is high-tech. It is career-oriented. BAE down the road has a couple hundred jobs available. The average salary at BAE is over $100,000, people. Huge opportunity here. So we got to drive the workforce. We got to create a continuum starting early on. Right? And allowing them after high school, I created the Governor's Scholarship. A lot of you have heard my story about UNH, and I love UNH. It's incredible. But the whole idea that we took UNH's idea of spending $5 million on themselves to give kids full rides to UNH. I said, no. I'm going to take that $5 million, and I'm going to create 1,000 scholarships, not 50. Right? Really affect the workforce here. And the Governor's Scholarship Program was just launched last month. And now 1,000 kids this year are going to have the opportunity for money, and they can use it any way they want. Public school, private school, community college, university. You can go to the Red Cross and become a phlebotomist if you want, which is great. I'm horribly afraid of needles, so the better our workforce can get at doing that, I would be personally very happy about that. But the fact is, we're letting you decide. That's the opportunity. That is choice, right? And then we're making sure that they're on a career pathway for themselves. And again, we're not waiting we shouldn't wait till they're seniors at the university to get them an internship. They should all be having internships with the private sector in freshman and sophomore year. We've got to get much more aggressive with that in our university system. And there's huge opportunity, right? I think Todd Leach does a great job as chancellor of the university. We're bringing in a new president of UNH. We're kind of deciding what model we're going to go with over at Keene. Those aren't problems. Those are great opportunities for us to really challenge ourselves, change the system. The final thing I'll leave with is this, and then we'll get into questions. I talk about changing the system, right? The time to change the system is right now. Things are going well. We have the fastest growing economy in New England right now, the fastest growing population, highest per capita income in the country, lowest poverty rate in the country. Now is the time to challenge ourselves to change it. If we wait till a crisis, then you're only reacting to the crisis, right? And you're not making the best change for the long term. It's the engineer in me. Change the system when things are going well. Always be willing to tweak it a little bit. And that's what we're trying to be bold. We're trying to be decisive. We're trying to get things done. Because now is the opportunity. Strike while the iron is hot. Why wait? Why wait? Challenge ourselves to be better. Challenge ourselves to do a little more at the government level and the private sector. And then finally, I want to end with this as well. The whole concept of leading by example. And I see, is Borja still here? Where's Borja? I love this guy, Borja Alvaro de Toledo. I can never say his name as well as he can. You know, last week we did this, I think it was the last time I was probably in Manchester, it was Friday night. We did the sleep out. A lot of you heard about it, the 2018 sleep out, trying to bring some awareness about the homelessness issue in this state, especially with kids, and especially here in Manchester. And on every given night, 300-400 kids right now are homeless, right here in this city, as good as times are. You're in the fastest growing state in the country, the best economy in the country. We have a homelessness issue. And it's not just about raising awareness. We raised some great money. I brought all my commissioners in. We did our little part. We raised about $30,000. Borja and his organization raised nearly $300,000 in one night. It was tremendous to really raise awareness, and he deserved a lot of credit for that. And I just want to take a second because I know a lot of there are organizations represented in this room that were a big part of that put out their money, that came forward, that slept out with us. It wasn't just about sleeping out and getting a headline. It's about actually moving things forward. I'm a big believer. You got to lead by example, right? So whether it's, I plunge in the freezing cold ocean in December for Special Olympics. I'm doing a bike ride for Best Buddies, a group for the developmentally disabled community I believe very passionately about. I'm training to do my 50-mile, maybe 100-mile, but probably just 50. For the Best Buddies program, we're going to go ride for that organization. I was reminded recently, and I'm not kidding, it's like I subconsciously put this out of my head, I'm going to be rappelling down the Brady Sullivan Tower this summer. I'm not kidding, I'm really afraid of heights. I really am. And so that almost disturbs me. But we're going to do it. It's a great cause, and we're going to do it, right? It's a great cause. We're going to do it. You got to lead by example. It's not just kind of doing that fun stuff, because some of it isn't fun. Even the little things, like for those of you I already exposed, I'm extremely afraid of needles. I have a whole phobia of needles and blood. Now, blood is fine, but like giving blood, and I pass out every time. And so when Singer, as you know, we do one of the largest blood drives in the country, is right here in Manchester. And I said, let's do it. Let's get more people there. And they said, all right, Governor, you're going to go give blood? I said, yep. And I remember it was a lot more dramatic. I'm not going to lie to you. Mentally, it was a lot. I thought I'd just, man up, tough it. I can do this. And it was hard. It was really hard for me mentally. And I remember it was the only time they put the needle in. And I don't know why I'm telling this story, but just whatever. That's what I do. So they put the needle in, and there's hundreds of people around me. And I'm like, okay, we're going to get through this. And I started to feel myself. And my staff had come over and said, Governor, we're going to wait to do the interview after you're done. You're not looking so good. And I said, no, bring him over, because if I stop talking, I'm going to go. So I end up doing MUR was getting annoyed with how much I was talking, as you are right now. No, because if I stopped talking, I would really pass out. And I said, there goes re-election right there. I can't take it. But look, sometimes my point is, we got to get out of our comfort zones. When times are good, push yourself to get out of your comfort zone. Try getting it involved with maybe a local nonprofit that your business maybe doesn't have great connection with. Try to expand yourself to get work into the school systems. Find out what opportunities might be there. Work with the university system. Do you have an internship program with the university or the community college? Right? Reach out. We got great people leading those organizations. Make those connections now. Build that system now for the long term. That's just how we're going to get the best results. Okay, I know there's a lot of questions. I'm sorry. Mike's panicking over there. I'm going to keep talking. But look, we're doing good things, and the last thing I'm going to leave with, I won't leave with anything. No, the last thing I'll leave with is, let us know. We really, really rely on your stories, on what's happening in the world. I love visiting businesses. I love talking to employees. Only with your stories do we change policy. You want a policy change? Tell me what's going on. Let people drive the policy for better outcomes. That's how the system really, really should work. So, all right, I'll stop talking. Thanks, Mike.
There you go. All right, can everybody hear me? Good. All right, just quick reminder on the note cards. Questions, start jotting those questions down. We're going to try to get through as many as we can. So, Governor, I've got a top 10 list here.
Apparently
of questions.
You do. Look at that thing.
But I think some issues that you're certainly familiar with, and that would be no surprise the Chamber would be interested in. And I will start with one that is timely, given some news yesterday. Many in the business community have been looking at the cost of energy for several years. Yesterday there was some news about the Northern Pass project no longer being selected for the RFP out of Massachusetts, and what that means for the future of that project. You've previously talked about your support for that project and the need to bring in new sources of energy. I wanted to ask more about, are you concerned that our approval process, the SEC process, is it capable of allowing us to build new infrastructure? Because this is one of the bigger...
It's capable. Look, is this working? I don't know. It is. Look, the SEC process is capable, and I'm not going to go into the Northern Pass thing too much. People know that I'm very much for it, and frankly, if you guys aren't very much for Northern Pass, you're missing the boat. You want manufacturers to stay here? I can tell you the number of manufacturers I have sat here and worked with hours and hours tirelessly, primarily because they say, look, your energy prices are too high, I got to go. We're moving to Tennessee, we're moving to South Carolina. I'm having those conversations on a weekly basis. Now, we're always, I don't know what it is. I guess I'm a better salesman than I thought. For the most part, we're able to always cajole them back in and work them back in and make them understand all the other benefits and give them some help here and there on their expansion or whatever it might be. But it's a constant battle. And if you don't have the Northern Passes, if you don't have more natural gas, if you don't have the things that really drop rates here, long term, we could be in trouble. The problem I really have with the SEC is I think to be blunt, I think they caved to political pressure. I mean, they got to the 5-yard line, and then someone stepped in and said, game over. And I think Eversource went, well, what do you mean? We didn't have an option to offer concessions. We didn't have an option to offer something else on the table or talk about what you needed to see. That was the most frustrating part. It's not just the vote, it's how it was done. So I think changes need to be made. There's no doubt to both the process, and because that's the one area where I think we've sent amazingly positive messages across this country with our aggressive going after Amazon, what we've done with the business community, breaking down regulations. These are all amazingly positive things, and businesses are flooding in here. This is the one real black mark, if you will, on what has been otherwise a very successful year in driving business.
You've mentioned that you're going to be announcing a new energy plan soon.
That's right, yeah, in the
And
next couple of weeks.
Could you give us a sense of what the
Ratepayer
status of that
first.
is and what the high points of that will be?
Look, I'm a big believer in ratepayer first because we have the highest rates in the country. If you have a plan that is not talking about how to lower rates as a primary focus, throw it out. I mean, I told that to the team. I said, what's the point? Now, can we do renewable energy? Of course we can. I signed the biggest renewable energy subsidy this state has ever seen last year. I believe very strongly in it. But you got to do it within the realm of what's right for this state. Should our renewable portfolio look exactly like Arizona's? Well, no. God, no. But it kind of does. I mean, people are trying to get there. We're smarter. Right, you have this, I'm an environmental engineer. I believe very strongly in the environment. And we've had this environmental revolution over the last 40 years. In the 80s and 90s, we were throwing everything we could, kind of spaghetti at the wall, even in the early 2000s, trying new technology, seeing where it could go, what renewable energy would look like. The fact is we have the data now, we're smarter now, and now we can design a portfolio that looks at New Hampshire's needs and can best utilize the renewable energy resources within New Hampshire. Right? I supported biomass last year very strongly because biomass has huge indirect benefits to New Hampshire. It wouldn't necessarily have that for Arizona, but it does for New Hampshire because the timber owners and the pellets and all that kind of stuff, there's a benefit here. Right? I support solar, good solar projects, not ones that just want the government to pay for everything. I mean, that doesn't make much sense. Hydro doesn't shut off, runs all 24 hours a day. So good hydro can be a smart thing for us. Allowing small hydro to put their energy back into the market, removing the cap on the net metering caps that we have now. Let's remove those caps. Let's get the prices where they need to be, back to the wholesale rates, or closer, or somewhere in the middle. You can't just push retail rates because you're all going to end up paying for that. The point is we have data. We can be smart and we can have balance in what we do. But our energy plan is going to be very ratepayer-centric, focus on base energy. Every year we have a power plant or two closing in New England. None of them are opening. That's a problem. I mean, 1,100 megawatts of clean renewable energy out of Quebec, and we said, no, are you nuts? I mean, it's really frustrating. So it's the one black mark, but long term, I really think we can find some stability.
So picking up on that theme of our business climate, as you've indicated, and I think many of us believe we have a lot of other great amenities that are working going in the right direction for us. One of the real exciting economic development opportunities that we're thrilled about here in Manchester is Dean's Army Initiative. And
I haven't heard of that. I'm not familiar. No, you're spot on, man. It's not exciting for Manchester. It's not exciting for New Hampshire. It's exciting for the country. It is an amazing opportunity for this country, and we're at ground zero, so it's tremendous.
And there's a tax credit that's working its way through the legislature that our organization, a number of other organizations are supporting, so I want to get your thoughts on...
Put it on my desk. Let's get it there. It's a tax credit that drives workforce, right? We have the opportunity, and Dean has been, obviously, I don't think I need to give anyone Dean's resume. He's been one of the great champions and has really inspired me. I said, look, Dean promotes. When Dean creates a great widget or whatever he's inventing today or tomorrow, right, you got to go promote it. You got to go sell it. And that's where I said, okay, that's what we need to do. We have a great widget here. New Hampshire as a whole, our structure, our opportunity. We got to go sell it. We got to go down to Boston and New York and Connecticut and in Quebec. We got to spend our time in these areas and draw on the workforce, draw on the families. People are always looking, especially the millennial generation, always looking for the next best opportunity. It's right here. And Army is a great example of that, bringing in these small companies that are going to really redefine what the future of medical technology is for all of us.
While ultimately not successful, the Amazon experience and going through that process, I think it was a great example of collaboration and really putting the best of what the state has to offer forward. What do you think the long-term impact of that exercise has been, and what other returns have you seen from it?
Look, we knew Amazon was a long shot, but what I really did, and I think as I think you're explaining here, we did it as a tool to create the most comprehensive business plan the state has ever seen. And that's the Amazon proposal, because you can take Amazon off the cover and write the name of any company right on top of it. Fred's Flower Shop is the one I always use. He's up in Colebrook. But I said it's applicable to him, right? But it talks about driving workforce. It talks about how, all the advantages we have for you, for your employees, for your businesses, right? And it gets a lot of these stigmas. Well, you have high property taxes and high business taxes. Actually, our business taxes aren't high. relative to zero, which is where our sales tax and income tax are. But we are, I think, the number 6 state in the country in terms of a favorable business tax overall climate. Do we have high property taxes? We do, of course, and we're always trying to offset that. But let's understand, fundamentally, that's where you want your property taxes being paid. Nobody likes paying taxes, but you want them at the local level so you can control them, so you can have a say on them. I mean, if any of you don't know Mayor Craig, you should, right? And I think most of you do. There's great connection there. You can go kind of plead your case very easily. A lot easier than you can with the state government, and a heck of a lot easier than you can. It's impossible with the federal government. Forget about it. Non-existent. So if you're going to pay taxes anywhere, do it at the local level. That's where we focus it on. That keeps the local control and allows businesses and individuals just to have more impact and say on their lives and their outcomes.
I want to switch gears to the opioid epidemic. It's been an important issue that we've talked about with Mayor Craig last week at our forum and a lot of other events. This week you announced a new recovery-friendly work initiative. I wonder if you could
Recoveryfriendlyworkplace.com. So this was something I created when I was up at Waterville Valley. We were seeing the opioid crisis. I had about 800 employees. And we'd see employees come in and we weren't sure how to deal when they had an issue or they were found with drugs or they came in and told us, look, I'm going through addiction right now. I don't know what to do. A lot of businesses just say, I can't have that here, and they let them go. With 2.6% unemployment, that's a bad idea. It's a bad idea in terms of profitability. It's a bad idea for your employee. It's bad for your company. It's bad for everybody. So we created a system up there that, I won't go into the details, but long story short, we've made it much more robust, and now we're taking it statewide, and all of a sudden it's going national. I got other states now joining us in the cause, and national companies taking this on. And what we're basically saying is, as a recovery-friendly workplace, as an employer, we will help give you the tools, the training, the understanding of what is available in your area. Where's their treatment center? Where's their recovery center? You know, what are these people going through? How to do peer-to-peer networking systems? How to keep that individual employed, right? Because it's just a win-win-win. I mean, there's a social good to it, of course, because you get to keep people, that need that level of self-worth, that need that activity as they're going through recovery. But it is a profitability factor, too. I mean, I saw it at Waterville. We were able to retain 75, 80% of our employees that were struggling. We find something else for them to do. We, maybe give them a couple weeks off. We put them into treatment, but then we come back. We have our peer-to-peer system. We have somebody kind of keeping an eye on it. They feel supported. They feel they're in an environment. We estimate 20 to 30,000 people right now, able-bodied working adults that are not in the workforce right now, right? Because they've gone through addiction, they're going through recovery, they're not quite sure if they're going to enter an environment that's going to be understanding and conducive and supportive of what they might be going through for quite some time. We can provide the tools and resources to your businesses now to actually make that a reality. It's just going like wildfire. It's in just 3 weeks. I mean, everyone from the Walmarts to McDonald's. Lots of companies are jumping on. New Hampshire auto dealers jumped on. I think 28,000 employees right now in just the first few weeks are now working for a recovery-friendly workplace. And so that's going to drive nationally. But look, there's other things. We're putting funding. We doubled the alcohol fund. In July 1st, we're going to open the first the only youth treatment facility in the state. You know, if you have an adolescent that's dealing with addiction, we don't got services for you right now. That's a tragedy. And why no one has addressed this, I'm not trying to break records here. We're just trying to do the right thing. Why no one has addressed this was shocking to me. So at the Sununu Center right here in Manchester on July 1st, we've gone through construction for the past year. We're opening the only youth treatment service in the state. Thank God. So we're just making these steps. It doesn't mean we're winning the war. We're seeing the level of death with drugs go down. That's a great win. But there's such a huge battle to go, and we're going to be battling this for some time. We're small, we're nimble, we can be really aggressive with new types of prevention and programming here. That's what we're trying to do. We realize that we really have the opportunity to set the standard for the rest of the country, to show best practices, if you will, for the rest of the country. That's what recoveryfriendlyworkplace.com is all about. People can go on, join, very easy. Again, it's taken off like wildfire, so we're very proud.
Just to stay on this topic in the big picture, in terms of really turning the corner on this issue, it's tough for a community or a state to tackle it alone. What would you like to see the federal government do better to support local efforts, state efforts?
Give me more money. Really. Because I don't think the federal government at least, they shouldn't be managing anything, right? The best thing the federal government to do is return our tax dollars right back to us. I mean, right now, for every dollar you send down to the federal government, we only get about 73 cents back, right? We're a major donor state to the rest of the country. But we have some issues here. And so we're looking for the flexibility, first off, to design the systems that we want to design to take care of the population. So I need more flexibility with Medicaid. I need more flexibility with SAMHSA, some of these other funding programs that come in. And we just need more money. Now, they've offered $6 billion over the next couple of years, kind of doubles the grants we've had over the past couple. They're going to take a tiny portion of it and make it more directed to states with the crisis. That's good. I frankly don't think it's good enough. I think they got to expand that a little bit. But we'll get some preferential treatment. Not a ton, but some preferential treatment. Congress just wasn't, everybody wanted a piece of the pie. There are folks out there states out there that don't have the crisis we have. They haven't even spent their opioid money from last year. I actually went to governors and offered to buy their opioid dollars at 50 cents on the dollar, right? Because we can use it here. It's going unspent in other states. So I think how the federal government allocates their money is just, it's all political, which is frustrating. So we've gone down there, we've banged on some doors, we're going to get some preferential treatment, and we'll see some more money come in. It will, don't get me wrong, it will be good. But then how we spend it, if I can just take 30 more seconds. The other thing we're really trying to do is we're throwing a lot of money at this problem, but we haven't created systems for accountability. Well, up until now, we do now. We're making every nonprofit that works in these systems that take federal or state money, we're making them go through a financial review. We all saw what happened to Serenity Place here. Tragedy, an absolute tragedy. And I'm just going to be blunt, it wasn't by accident. It was real negligence there. There really was. Now, there are people's lives on the line. That organization had saved lives for 30 years, and now they're not there. Now, FIT and God Bless Maureen and some of the other organizations, Farnham, they've all stepped up. And Manchester is so great about having other organizations step up and fill the gap. But that was a real problem. We got to make sure that doesn't happen again. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about people's lives. It's not about who gets the money. It's not, there's a lot of internal politics with this stuff too that also is frankly, I'm going to be a little aggressive here and say it's disgusting sometimes, right? The internal politics of who's getting the money. Who cares who's getting the money? Let's focus on the outcome. Let's focus on the lives we're going to save. Let's focus on changing families' opportunities. But there's a lot of pushes and pulls. And I've gone in with politics aside, enough, right? And really control the situation. There's a governor's commission on alcohol and drug abuse. I'm going to be very blunt. I showed up at the first meeting when I first became governor. You know the first thing that Tim Rourke said to me? Tim Rourke, a lot of you know Tim from the Charitable Foundation. He looked at me, he was the chairman at the time. He looked at me and said, "This is great, we've never had a governor come to the meetings." Are you kidding me? We're in the biggest opioid crisis and no governor had ever even come to the meetings? Look, again, I'm not trying to break records here. We're just trying to do the right thing and manage. So we're taking a hold of the situation. We're making sure there's more money coming in. We're making sure there's accountability. And we're making sure we're, at the end of the day, we're just getting better outcomes for the individuals.
I want to switch gears to a few pending legislative issues.
You got me all fired up in the morning here. God bless
That's what we
Manchester.
wanted.
I love it. I know. Look, I'm not. People say it to me. I'm not traditional in terms of the politician. I get that. Maybe I need to be a little more traditional and a little more reserved. I try. I can't do it.
So one of the key issues working its way through the process, Medicaid reauthorization. What do you think are the principles, priorities you're looking for in a successful compromise that lands on your desk?
So we've been fighting hard for a lot of flexibility out of Washington. We've gotten some, not as much as I would have liked. There's still a lot of bureaucracy down there that we're trying to wade through. Trying to make sure we get folks like the insurance companies and the hospitals and all the stakeholders as part of the game. We're talking to them constantly, trying to make sure they're part of it. We're trying to make sure that whatever we do, we don't shortchange the substance misuse crisis a single dollar, because we're going to be using some of the current money out of the alcohol fund to now fund the healthcare trust, which keeps Medicaid floating. So we're going to backfill that. We're going to make sure all those pieces are really in place. We're very close. We really are. My hope is that within the next week or two we're there. We're going to have a work requirement, which most states are now going to, which is great. Just incentivizes people to get back to work, back into that workforce, gets them out of that stagnation, and creates opportunities for them and their families, which is tremendous. So again, at the end of the day, we're going to have a New Hampshire plan. It's not just Medicaid reauthorization. That's not what this is at all. We're going to keep everybody on the plan with health care, which is great, but we're going to do it New Hampshire's way. We're going to save a lot of money doing it. Again, we just managed the heck out of it, and we're going to save, right now the plan looks to be about $150 million a year. And no one loses services, right? It's not magic, it's management. And we're able to do it in a very bipartisan way, bringing everyone to the table. So I'm very confident. We're not there yet. I'm not going to lie to you, but I'm very confident we'll have a very good comprehensive plan in the next few weeks.
After the Amazon proposal, I know our organization, a number of other organizations that support expanding or looking at expanding passenger rail into southern New Hampshire were pleased to see you say that you were supportive of moving forward with the project development phase federal grant. It's remained in the plan.
I'm shocked it remained in the plan, by the way. I assume the House would have pulled it out, but they kept it in.
We've been working hard on that one. So it's,
Well, the governor put it in there. It's good.
yeah, well, we appreciate the support.
Maybe
So
I
now-
twisted a few arms on that. I'm not saying that.
So now that it's in the Senate, I want to ask if, if you remain supportive of kind of getting to the finish line on that, and what sort of support you see in the Senate. Would you be willing to twist a few arms for us in the Senate?
Yeah, well, yeah, so I put it in the plan, so obviously I'm supportive. Whether it stays in the Senate or not, I don't know. I assume the House would have taken it out. The Senate's got to figure out what to do. I can tell you this is going to be a really close vote. It is, whether it stays in or not. I mean, look, at the end of the day, the train, let's be very blunt, will likely take vastly more people from Manchester and bring them to work into Boston. Don't fool yourself about that. Does it provide an opportunity potentially for the airport? You bet it does. Does it provide an opportunity to get some of the businesses that do have a northern Massachusetts workforce up here? Of course it does. There are benefits there. So there's no doubt. This is just a study. It doesn't build the train, but it's really the final study that'll decide. It's all federal dollars, although it is taxpayer dollars, but it is at least federal dollars, so it's not directly hitting the New Hampshire taxpayer on the state level. So look, whether it passes or not, I couldn't tell you. I haven't whipped the vote, so to say. We'll see.
Family medical leave is an issue that just passed the House. There's been some concern about the solvency of the current program. I think you spoke out about that recently, but in general, you've said you're open to the concept of this type of bill.
I think a voluntary family medical leave program in New Hampshire could be groundbreaking, not just for New Hampshire, but setting a model for the rest of the country. I'm very supportive of it. The problem we have is the solvency. How much are you going to put in? Will the fund be big enough for when you go and try to get your money out? The worst thing we could do is create a fund so a single mom is putting money in for a couple years, and then 2 years down the road she says, okay, I need that money. Sorry, we didn't plan well enough. It's not solvent. No money for you. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. The models are shaky. I mean, they really are under the current plan. So it's not that I'm not supportive. I mean, I want to get this done, but we need a system of flexibility, and we need something that is truly solvent. When they first designed this plan, they said, well, we just need 70% or 65% of people to put money in voluntarily. I said, it'll never happen. That's like, it would be great if it did, of course. But asking 65% of the workforce to voluntarily put their money in for something that they may or may not draw out of, years down the road, that's a bit ambitious. So let's be smart about the model. So that's the frustration I think a lot of us, not just myself, but a lot of us at the State House have. This should be able to work. The Lynn Ober amendment would have made it more privatized. You would have brought the Afflecks of the world in and basically told all the employers, look, you just got to bring Affleck in and offer this, and Affleck will create a product for your employee. They can decide whether to take it or not, just when they decide whether to re-up with your insurance. Nobody really liked that idea, and it wasn't the best idea in the world, but I think it was better, and it would have taken the solvency question out of it, right? You have the funds backed by billion-dollar companies now, not by a voluntary fund, because right now everyone has agreed you don't want to let this just fall directly to the general fund. So they got to keep working on the model. They do. I hope they get there. I'm very supportive. I really hope they get there, but they got some work to do. You can't just, they're trying to drive this on politics alone. That's just not a good idea. That's not a good idea.
So we have a few minutes left. I want to get into a few more questions. Workforce development, you talked about the importance of building our workforce. Last fall, you created a Millennial Advisory Council to help bring some of those voices of young professionals forward. I want to ask you what you've heard from that group thus far, but also there was a question about really, from a policy standpoint around what do you think is the best approach to attract top talent? And somewhat related to this, we've heard, and I think you've heard through your advisory council, is that affordable housing is a policy issue that young people are really struggling with. So, which
is why so let me jump right into that. I created a bill this year that creates a tax credit for first-time home buyers, right? Millennials are waiting to buy their homes later on. Let's incentivize them to get into that market. It's, no offense to the millennials in the room. I'm almost a millennial, I'm not. But they're paying, when you're paying $2,000 a month for rent, or $4,000 for a two-bedroom apartment, it's crazy, right? Get some equity, people, right? So we want to incentivize them to enter the home buyers market. So we're creating a first-time home buyers tax credit, which is having some trouble. We need some. We're close, but we're really not there yet. I put a lot of money into what we call SLRP, Great acronym. I got rid of DREAD and I created SLURP, right? Student Loan Repayment Program. So when you come out of the university, if you stay and work here, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in, Army has a version of it now, tech, we're trying to create these programs where we will help pay down your high student debt. It really kind of takes, all three of these issues of the high cost of education, high student debt, retaining young workforce. A program like this, we're doubling or even tripling the amount of money we have in that program right now. That can really retain a younger workforce here. The Millennial Advisory Council that I created was great. They focus a lot. They really expose how millennials are thinking, right? So we talk about housing, but do millennials want to live in a big box apartments? They really don't, right? They want large communal areas. They want small bedrooms. I mean, you got to get into the minutia here, right? And how we design and permit some of these new structures is going to be critical. So we're trying to get this information out to the planning boards. You got to think 21st century. Don't think like, again, old school. You got to think and design and build to what this generation is, or the type of product this generation is really looking for. We got to break down, those regulatory barriers to get the incentive, the capital in here to actually make these projects a reality. So all those things are really working together. I mean, they helped write a lot of the Amazon proposal. Right? They had some great ideas about putting in there where we talked about the train, we talked about public transportation. Millennials love good food. They do. That's like a high priority for millennials. That's where they want to spend a lot of their disposable income. So, focusing on farm to table and what we call the creative economy and micro farming. You have a couple of incredible micro farms right here in Manchester, by the way. People don't even know it. The hydroponic stuff that's going on. We have some entrepreneurs in the state that are investing in agriculture. You'd be shocked. I probably shouldn't say their names here, but you'd be shocked at some of the names. You know them, but they're investing in agriculture here, right? That's huge opportunity. Again, create a system that is going to create the product that you want the new customers, so to say, the millennials, to buy.
So we only got a couple minutes left, so I want to wrap up, give you a chance for a final word, but also a personal question about just the job of being governor. I think when we talked a year ago, you were only been on the job for a few weeks. Since then...
Was I this amped up?
You were pretty amped up. Yeah.
I really don't have I'm either really on or I'm napping. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm trying to take a rest.
Well, next year we're going to draw blood while we do this. So if you want to
I'll do it. Right. I say yes to everything. You know what I said yes to? You know what I'm doing later today? I probably shouldn't say this. I like to visit businesses, right? I like to visit manufacturers. And I want to visit the guys that run Grace Limousine. A lot of you are probably taking Grace Limousine to the airport or something. And I said, I'll come over to the office. And I think as a joke, the owner said, I'll come pick you up in the car. And we'll drive around in the car. I said, yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to be a driver for a couple hours with Grace Limousine. Really, with the head of the company, we're going to be talking about how to get workforce in here and how to, what's going on in his business, regulatory environment. And I'm going to I have a whole list of people I got to go pick up in a couple hours. So I tend to say yes to everything, but you got to make it for either a cause or make it for, get something valuable out of it.
I think you kind of answered my last question, which was, what aspect of the job do you enjoy most? And did it surprise you? It sounds like getting out there and doing everything.
Look, I love this stuff. It sounds wacky. When I first became governor, there was this mindset of, okay, we'll make sure that people don't ambush you with questions and we'll control everything. And I'm kind of uncontrollable. I love taking tough questions. I love going into a room, with a group that I know can ask a really tough question. I'm not afraid to answer anything. That's a challenge. I like it. Doesn't mean I can give you the answer you want. I'm going to give you the straight story every single time. I really believe in that. That's how you just get things done. So I love the challenge and really getting out there and talking to people. And it's about the stories. I can't say it enough. Dean's story. I've said so many times with Dean, and we talk about the amazing options of FIRST Robotics, that what's going on with Army. Those stories create better policy, which get better outcomes. That's all it's about. How do you get government focusing on the individual? Spending time with Borja and the folks that he deals with day in and day out. The hardest part about being governor, if I can, is also the stories. It's a lot of tough stories. I spend a lot of times with people in addiction, or people that are homeless, or families that have had abuse in their families, or whatever it is. But you got to hear those stories, and it tears you apart. I'm not going to lie to you. It's really, really tough. You can't do enough of it. A lot of parents who have lost kids to the opioid crisis, kids who have lost parents to the opioid crisis. That's real. And then you hear those stories and say, okay, it's not just hearing the story, it's okay, what happened? Right? I'll sit with a parent and I'll say, how did Jim go from here to here to here to all of a sudden he didn't wake up one day? Because by understanding that pathway, that's where you say, okay, he tried to get in recovery, and it only lasted a week. Okay, well, where was he? What didn't work for him? Right? You got to get into those details, and it gets tough sometimes. It does. Yeah. But it gets rewarding. There's amazing rewards at the end of the day, and that's what keeps me going. We've been very, very successful in the last 18 months. We got to keep this momentum up. Still a lot more to do. That's what keeps that. You say, boy, why does this guy have so much energy? I get excited about the job because when you manage right, when you build, and management isn't about me. I mean, it is, but. So you should all vote for me, by the way, if I didn't put that in. But management is about building good teams, right? I mean, there's very few of us, even Dean, that couldn't do it. I see Maureen here, you know, who really does the work for Dean. We couldn't, none of us could do this without a good team. We couldn't. And my team is at work. My team is with my family. Right? For me, my team is also with my faith. You got to have that support system and get that input. And then you empower those around you, especially in the workplace. Give them the authority to do their job. Don't try to micromanage everything. Lead by example by getting into details. But then let your commissioners, let your team really get out there and do their job. And break down and help them break down the barriers that are getting in their way to get better results for the individual. So again, I love what I do. It can get tough sometimes. The political climate is wacky. I mean, really, in the last 10 days, I've spent time with Trump and Pence, and I've been sleeping on the sidewalks of Manchester, and I'm here this morning. It's amazing how it's always something different. So I like that aspect of it. But really, we need your help. We always need your help. We always need your stories. That's really how you drive a better result. That's how you, it's part of that 603 pride. Right? We all have a little of that New Hampshire pride. Tell us your story, because you want to make it a better place for yourselves and your families. Tell us your story, and let us go to work and try to get better results for you. So.
Governor, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you very much. Great job.
You have a spider on your right knee.
No kidding.
Yes, I do.
I'm glad you didn't bring it up during it.
Okay.
Yeah.